Broadcasting from beautiful, tropical Vero Beach, Florida, it's Money Nation with Ed Gardner.
Good morning and welcome to Money Nation. Today's special guest is Joe Cunningham from Worldview Capital. Joe, thanks for being with us.
Yeah, hi Ed, and happy December. It's good to be on again.
When this year fly by, December 3rd today, crazy. I mean, it was like summer was ending like a week or two ago, and now it's past Thanksgiving and it's flying by.
I know it. I got to start my Christmas shopping. You're on my list, Ed. Don't worry.
Oh, thank you, Joe. I'm looking forward to it. So let's talk about one of the big news stories last week was World Cup soccer. Let's talk sports here on Money Nation. What'd you think about the USA? What'd you think about, first of all, the first elimination round?
Yeah, well, it was super fun to watch and very exciting. Against in the Iranian game, my wife came into the room and started like having a conversation with me at like the 85th minute sort of thing, and I'm like, no, you have to leave now. So. Yeah. That wasn't so that was fun. That was good fun, and it was good sportsmanship, and I think it reignites Americans' interest in soccer and in the global sports arena, and that's a good thing. We're Worldview Capital. We have that passion anyway, so we're always looking for not just the economic angle, but the global cultural reach of all people in all places, and nothing does it better than soccer. So it was very disappointing on Saturday when we crashed out.
It's pretty amazing. I see other friends are talking about the walking soccer, and like they haven't watched a second of soccer in 8 years, and all of a sudden they're like going crazy. So totally. There's something about World Cup that even if you're not a soccer fan, those were some fun games. Quite interesting. The first game they tied Wales. Yeah. Looks like they could have won that game.
No, they beat Wales and they tied England.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, no. They Iran. They beat Iran. They lost to Wales in the first game.
Yeah.
Or tied them. They were
up 1-0. And not to digress too far here, but did you see the press response from, I think it's Tyler Adams or Adam Tyler, the team captain? It's Iranian journalist got up in his grill about pronouncing the country's name and the race relations in the United States. This kid did a master class in answering that, and I would encourage your listeners to just take a listen to. You can find it on YouTube or wherever you get these things. Just beautiful recitation, beautiful answer to the guy, and just completely disarmed him. What was an otherwise very aggressive round of questioning. Very good.
It was. I saw that, and I thought he did a good job. He was. He's the type of guy you want to be your PR for your company, because totally. he didn't get baited into to even go there. He just backed away.
No, not at all.
And that was nice.
I think maybe that Bankman Fried character from FTX could use him on his PR team.
Oh, that's a whole other story there in that one. But what do you think about the game with the Netherlands? It looked pretty good. They looked to put a little pressure on them in the beginning of the game. And we're excited watching that in the morning with 10 a.m. We're watching that. And but they just couldn't put a pass and a shot together. What were your thoughts on the last game and the Netherlands in general?
In the whole tournament, my thing is, if you don't shoot, you're not going to score. The number of on target, they track them as on target goals or shots is painfully low. And we just weren't squeezing off those shots. And you look at it, okay, we got a different view and a different angle and everything. But you're like, just don't pass it. Just let one rip. Maybe the goalie fumbles it, or maybe you get a rebound and it kicks out and you get another shot. But there's always trying to get these extra passes. And they weren't hitting them.
It was clear the Netherlands, when they did get down there, they got open. They put a great pass on the open man, and he just put it in the goal. And they did that several times. So it seemed like they were much better finishers and probably a better team overall. So, but it was fun to watch. What's going on in the international stock market? Your Worldview Capital. We got stuff going on with China and Iran. Let's talk about China first.
so a couple of interesting things over the weekend, which was China is rolling back its zero COVID policies. They're allowing the district party representatives to make decisions on lockdowns or to decentralize the control from Beijing. And then in Iran, they did away with their morality police. So what, to me, those may seem like separate issues, but to me, really, what they're suggesting is that the protests worked. And so we haven't seen protests really work in a totalitarian state like Iran or in a communist state like China for a long, long time. And I think that could be, now it'll be interesting to see where it goes from here. But the Chinese are legitimately disappointed in their in the stewardship of the Communist Party and the economy and on COVID and some other things. And Iranians have been disenfranchised and disillusioned with their leadership forever, right? For 30 years.
The getting rid of the Iranian morality police is a good step. But I'll tell you one thing: you're watching China. Some of those Twitter feeds about the people, putting them in those COVID, the lines they stand in, freezing cold, and then they put them in these little cabins and they're like locked away. It looks like living hell living in China.
It really
right
does.
now. And some of those, I think maybe there was Foxtron or where they build these Apple land, where they build the Apple phones is one city, and just and then they have all these Chinese guys in white suits with black policemen behind him, but the white suit guys got, like clubs, and they're all beating on everyone, and they got no identification on one white robe or white suit. They're just all
hazmat
white men.
suit.
Hazmat suits. You can't even identify them. If you had a guy that did something wrong to you, it's the guy in the white suit. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy. And those Chinese people are sitting there and knocking barricades over and, trying to break down the COVID testing centers, and they're fighting with them, and it's amazing. Then I heard they were testing people's phones, anyone who has a VPN, where they could actually get around China's the
Great Wall.
On a lot of websites you can't go to. They can get around that, and then they're putting the videos online for the world to see. Crazy stuff over there still, but that is good news. The COVID,
it is.
I'm going to loosen that up because that'll go a long way in helping a lot of different companies.
Oh, no doubt about it. And, that's one of our themes. I think, we're formulating our 2023 ideas is a re-engagement with China on trade. And that would be overall good for the overall economy, and may forestall a recession here in the United States, say in the second half of the year. So we'll have to see how it goes. I don't think, we're not, we're not seeing the tea leaves clearly enough right now from the Chinese side to make a determination at whether they're going to get back on the global trade bandwagon or not. But remember, China has to digest 20 million college graduates a year, 20 million. So they got to find jobs for these guys, or they will have a revolution. And that, which will play part and parcel of what we just saw.
Let's talk about the numbers today. The S&P, what are we, just below 4,000?
Yeah, let's.
Your number's 4,200 for the year end.
It is, yeah, and I'm still confident we're going to get there. Friday was an interesting day, and let's just talk about that for a minute, because Friday represented almost perfectly what I call the Phillips curve knee-jerk reaction. Okay, so what's the Phillips curve, right? Economics 101. Phillips curve is an inverse relationship between employment and interest rates. So you had a positive jobs number come out on Friday, right? And the market was trading at, I think, what was it? 40, right? So a big number comes out, and all of a sudden, growth, bad. And the market sells off, goes down to 40.26. Then, people are thinking about it a little bit, going, no, actually, growth is good. And it closes at 40.71. So that is, and when I was a bond trader on Wall Street in the 80s, that was a classic, what I would call a Phillips curve knee-jerk reaction to a positive number, meaning that a positive number is ultimately good, but what it means in the context of the Phillips curve is that interest rates will likely go up, and they may, but ultimately growth will trump interest rates every time. If the economy stops growing, we're going to have bigger problems, and if interest rates are too high. So just
Tom Lee came on today, and I always remember Tom Lee. I just like the way I just like him. I don't know. He's on CNBC, and I remember when the market's getting throttled, and we're at 3,500, and everyone's saying it's going to 3,000.
Right.
and he's going, no, it's going to go to like 4,400 or 4,600. People going like, dude, that's like 50% higher than the other people that are talking. But so I always remembered him saying that, and as you know, he came on again today, and they were at 4,000, getting close to your number of 42, and he reiterated 4,400 to 4,500, and there's only like 25 days to go. So
I like a man with conviction.
It was interesting when he was giving his reasons why, whatever, several months, 3 months ago, 4 months ago, people were just going, "You're crazy," and what's happening? He's been kind of right. So we'll see Joe or Tom Lee, how you guys do in the last 3 or 4 weeks. Let's talk about the supply side inflation. First of all, I want you to give a little definition for our listeners. Supply side inflation.
So this is kind of a key element of the whole cycle that we're in, where the Fed adjusting and the Fed raising interest rates and pivoting towards a raise. And we've looked at this from day one as not a monetary phenomenon, but a fiscal phenomenon. So what's that mean? It means that you have the Fed right now trying really to destroy demand, right? By raising interest rates, they're attempting to tamper down economic growth and ultimately the spending power of whomever, the consumer, the industrial sector, wherever they want to point to. We've looked at it and thought, no, this is a supply-driven inflation, right? And I think we all have heard it. The ports, the trade with China is part of it. The semiconductors, those are all elements of a supply-driven inflation. So crushing demand, using monetary policy to crush demand is the wrong tool in the box. In fact, we shouldn't be raising interest rates really much at all. You're ultimately not going to encourage the manufacturing sector to make additional capital investments to increase their ability to supply goods by raising interest rates, right? So there are a few things that we should be looking at the fiscal level, at the federal government, to do that's outside of the independence of the Federal Reserve and the monetary side of the equation. The monetary side being, in this case, the demand side of the equation, without getting too wonky. But we need to incentivize our corporate sector to spend for capital expenditures, right? So there could be a few tools. One would be to accelerated depreciation, just write off that capital expenditure in the year one. You make it, you write it off, you move on, right? The second thing would be possibly, and it's not always very popular, but to cancel stock buybacks. Stock buybacks were not always legal. This is a new thing. And it's kind of, I always thought it's sort of a lack of imagination.
Why don't you like the stock buyback? So if a company thinks their stock is cheap and they got cash, they buy it back. They
were able to borrow the money to buy it back when the interest rates were low. But right now, what we'd like to see is those companies making capital investments to improve their overall industrial profile, let's say. So to build another factory, so that's just one of the ideas, right? Another one is we have to, we have very low labor force participation. So we need to get people back into the labor force. And there's that segment in the middle at guys our age, they're just not going back to work. So we need to find an incentive to get them, and obviously with the COVID money running out and some of these other things running out, we need to get those guys back into the office or back into the factory and working. The employers are still offering, pretty attractive wage and benefit packages to bring in new employees on. $5,000 signing bonuses for truck drivers. We need to find whatever that mechanism is to get people back to work. This generation, that middle generation, this is the lowest labor participation rate in history. This is a generational shift. So not everybody can afford to retire now. It's like, well, what are they doing?
Well, I think with the stimulus money spent and the credit card balances are growing,
going up.
Real. I think 20 years they haven't seen such increases. They got some high numbers reported the last week or two, and people are going to have to go back to work.
We're going to have to go back to work
and get back to work. It's time to work time. Hey, Joe, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Remember, listeners, any questions at all, and you can always feel free to give me a call at 518-255-8854 for any questions you may have. We'll be right back with Money Nation.
All opinions expressed by Ed Gardner and or his guests on the Money Nation show are solely Ed Gardner's and or his guests' opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Cutter & Company or any of their affiliates. You should not treat any opinion expressed by Ed Gardner and or guests as a specific inducement to make a particular investment or follow a particular strategy, but only in as an expression of their opinion. Ed Gardner's and his guests' opinions are based on information he considers reliable, but neither Cutter & Company nor affiliates and or subsidies warrant its completeness or accuracy, and it should not be relied upon as such. Always talk to your financial advisor before making such decisions.
Welcome back to Money Nation. Joe, B21 Bomber. What's going on with that? I saw that in the news.
Yeah, cool, huh? So they gave it a sort of a veiled unveiling. Okay, you couldn't get too close to it. You could sort of see it. It's supposed to be next generation. But here's the I was explaining this to my wife recently. America is preparing for war. Okay, make no mistake. And nuclear war is the ultimate prep game that we do. You know, remember when we grew up, duck and cover, they had the fallout shelters and things like that. You're going to start to see the government quietly bringing some of those elements back. All right, the Putin isn't just threatening to use nuclear weapons. He can backwards rationalize using them in his own calculus. He can. So we have to take him for what he says at his word, right? And we need to be careful here. So what was interesting to me when they revealed the B-21 was that they talked about the triad nuclear deterrent. Now, triad nuclear deterrent is land, North Dakota missiles, ballistic missiles in North Dakota, sea, right, the submarines, and air. So all of a sudden, we are updating the whole safety net. And you don't just do that if you don't see something on the horizon that's going to be an impetus to spend that money and to allocate those resources. Bears keeping an eye on, but I promise you will start to feel that we're heading towards a more defensive Cold War type attitude going forward. But, pretty cool bomber. There's 750 million each. I'll take none.
It's really a laboratory, the Ukraine and Russia, what's going on for all kinds of warfare that's going on, especially like drone warfare, which is the newest, form of warfare that's being utilized, and you see it on both sides. And
in scale,
and obviously the U.S. is probably getting a good handle right from the Ukrainians, what's happened and what's not. Usually, you see all kinds of plenty of great video about drones dropping munitions from the sky right down into the tank hatch, blows up the Russian tank. I saw that. And then there's you got the suicide drones by Russia that are, I guess those are Iranian, and they don't even to shoot something or drop a charge, they just crash into it and it explodes. So there's all kinds of things, and as far as I think how do you stop these drones, or how do you stop large swarms of drones? Articles about that. We want to be able to send swarms of drones, and how do you defend against those swarms? And there's all kinds of ways they do it now. They're all kind of not good ways, but what were you going to say?
Nothing is a better catalyst for innovation than war, right? So we will start to see new technologies develop, and we will start to see, and they will become mainstream, some of these technologies that we had not really had an opportunity before, whether it's the short pulse lasers, or it's some type of jamming device, or better improved radar or recognition. However they want to shoot these drones down, there might be like kind of cluster shots going out at these swarms. It will be interesting, but it's coming.
There's microwave frequency that actually will enable the drone temporarily, but once the microwave gets turned off, they turn back on again.
Right.
I think the short pulse lasers they zap the sensor in the drone, and they can possibly shoot hundreds down. Where the older lasers or older munitions, it's hard to shoot down a group or a swarm. I think that's not only do they want to be able to have swarm drones on their side, but they want to be able to defend against it.
No doubt.
Someone else told me something earlier this week, which it was kind of frightening, but they said basically with the advent of drones, all countries can be like a semi-nuclear power. And I said, how is that? And they said any country can put together a suitcase nuke. The problem before is they had some kind of ballistic missile to deliver it.
Yeah.
And well, guess what? You can use drones now. There's plenty of drones that can pick up a suitcase. You could probably get 10, 20 miles of your target on the other side of the border or whatnot, and fly the drone right at the target and blow it up right over the target or right on wherever you're trying to blow up. So that's really, really scary. So they are thinking about what ways, or is there better ways to defend this? And interesting developments and the changes that are happening.
Well, you're absolutely right. Ukraine is a laboratory, and we're taking good notes. There's no doubt. So I'm confident in our military-industrial complex, the much maligned military-industrial complex, that they will come up with a solution set, and this might be something that your investors should be attuned to going forward in 2023. I mean, as we get into 2023. There's only a few sectors that would be defensive if we were to have a slowdown, say mid-year, as people seem to think we will. I'm not convinced myself, but defense related tech stocks for one, definitely
they're doing good.
Healthcare, another one. The chemical industry, probably a third. There's enough there for a stock picker like yourself, Ed, and your clients to find a few buds on the trees that you can expect to blossom going forward.
What do you think about Twitter? Elon, it's in the news all over the time. It's everywhere. We got to mention Elon at all. What do you think about Twitter? People are like saying it's the worst thing. He's going to ruin it, but I think user numbers are up. So
numbers are up.
I never really listened, or looked at Twitter before. I'm actually looking at Twitter more than I ever have. I find it kind of entertaining. Same with you.
100%.
So
same with me.
I don't know if the user numbers are up. That's all. Now we got to talk about ad revenue up. We did see the thing where he had a little war going on with Tim Cook of Apple, but they got together. They had a little powwow, and the next thing you know, I think today I heard that all Apple ads are running on Twitter again, and they're getting along fine. But I don't know. He seems to get things done. He's done a lot of stuff in his short time, all the different companies. We'll see. There's again, the left hates him and what he's doing with Twitter, but I don't know. What do you think about how the job he's doing? How do you think he'll do in the long run?
Well, it's a lot of noise, right? So he had to align the revenues with the cost basis. So people are going to go. And there should be a certain element. It's a technology company where AI is doing more of the work and people are doing less of the work. So there's probably a number of engineering jobs that were redundant. So he'll address that, and they'll go all SpaceX on him and do their thing. This guy can't be a hero when he's able to land rockets simultaneously on a barge, and then be a villain when he tweets out something stupid. It can't work that way.
Remember the bot number and the accounts that are fake, those are down. The user numbers are up, and he's doing it with like a third of the workforce. So what does that tell you? What were those other 2/3 of the people doing there? They're all complaining when they get fired, but I don't know. Someone said Zuckerberg is looking at his management philosophy and methods, and maybe he's going to try to implement those at Meta, because he's got a lot of extra weight and extra fat on that bone.
No doubt. And Meta's down like 67% this year. It's just been getting dumpster fire. Yeah, just awful. But Tim Cook, though, he's fighting a lot of fights. I did see today that Apple's going to be the sponsor of the halftime Super Bowl show, and I forget who's going to be on, who's playing that, but doesn't matter. They're always entertaining. And he's got this whole thing going on in China with Foxconn that so they're starting to pivot. Apple's starting to pivot away from China, which would be interesting. And if they're able to, one, do it, and two, if they're able to do it without.
Well, where are they going to do the manufacturing? They're going to take that Apple sitting in China and they're going to make the phones other countries. Is that where they're going?
Yeah,
or?
India, and Vietnam.
India and Vietnam, okay. Much
Yeah.
seem to be better, less political problem countries. Although someone did mention that just they asked Tim Cook about human right abuses in China, and he said nothing, zero. He won't say a word about that. Complete opposite, and he's probably pretty smart to do that.
Yeah.
But you saw the guy from Disney CEO, Iger's back. He did the opposite. He just let it go, and he didn't last too long. And you saw the replacement of Bob Iger back in charge of Disney. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's ultimately good for the Disney shareholders for sure, because the company had just it seemed to have lost its way. It's a storyteller, and it kind of tried to sanitize the stories they were telling, and they weren't interesting. They weren't good stories then. You need a little bit of little grit in the stories to make them heartwarming at the end and interesting for the viewer, and it just didn't work.
Yeah, he'd the former CEO Chapek or not good. Joe, nice talking to you. Have a great week.
Thank you, Ed. Always a pleasure.
Any farewell comments?
Yeah, I think we're going to have a nice December. This could be the strongest fourth quarter in like 20 years. So, take advantage of it. And, as I say, we'll do a forecast one in January show, but, we're not throwing a towel in on the economy just yet. We like where things are going, but I do think for stock pickers, Ed, you're going to have a heck of a 2023.
I hope you're right, Joe. I hope you're right.
Okay.
Joe, thanks for being with us here. And remember, listeners, any questions at all, you can always feel free to give me an email at edgardner@cutterco.com, or you can call me, 518-255-8854. All previous interviews, go to YouTube, search Money Nation. Joe, thanks a lot. We'll have a great day. And thanks for being with us on Money Nation.
You bet, Ed.